Hello, love. You are tuned in to the Woman Behind the Brand podcast with your host, Coach Dorcas. We are here to talk about all things faith, family, and business as I sit down with some amazing women who are not only impacting the lives of others, but impacting the kingdom of God. We are all things hope, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of The Woman Behind the Brand. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Woman Behind the Brand with yours truly, Coach Dorcas. I hope you have been enjoying the season so far. I have, with some amazing women who are making big moves in business, in ministry. You know how we do. We are women of hope, so we impact the lives of others while impacting the kingdom of God, because that's what it's all about. There's no way around it as kingdom impactors. So welcome to another episode. I am your girl, Coach Dorcas, your host. I'm also a trauma transformation coach. What is that? I help women who have been silenced by the shame of their trauma reclaim their voice and repurpose their pain so that they can show up authentically in life, and they will no longer be silenced by the pain of their past. I am also the creator of the Woman Behind the Brand podcast, and you're probably wondering, how does being a trauma coach and this Woman Behind the Brand podcast go hand in hand? This podcast was created for the women who are building amazing brands, women who are telling their stories, women who are impacting the world, and women who aren't afraid to say, if I can get through it, if I can do it, you can do it too. So I'm just here to highlight these amazing women so you can get to know the essence of the woman behind the brand, and not just the name of the brand, or not just the logos and the things we see. And so welcome for those of you, this is your first episode, go back, binge watch it. Get caught up and see what we've been talking about since last season, but make sure you get caught up. And tonight I'm here with another amazing woman, April Bridges. She is the head of product for Let Bob Technologies. She is a techie, and I am so glad to be able to sit down with her tonight. And so, April, I am going to let you introduce yourself to all of our viewers.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm April Bridges. I currently live in Birmingham, Alabama, well, the outskirt of Birmingham. I am married to my husband, Randy, and we've been married for 14 years. We have two sons. Well, one through us, so by me, who's 12, and then one by marriage. He's 21, and that's RJ, the second. So two sons, and I've been in my career for a while. I came to Birmingham by way of Savannah, Georgia. I've been here since 2003, and I still have my 912 area code number. Haven't changed it or anything. So that's who I am in a nutshell. But when it comes to business, I am as you call tech guru, but it has been just a virtue of me believing in God and where I am today. And so I currently work for a startup tech company where I wouldn't have been without God and my family supporting me. And I'm just, learning something every day when it comes to my steps, when it comes to where I'm supposed to be, where I am now, and I'm just someone who is open to learning something every single day.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I'm just gonna tell you now. Um, I have been tech challenged. I am getting better. I am learning every day to not resist tech, but to embrace it. And God has placed an amazing woman in my life who has helped me overcome my tech challenges. So hats off to all of the techies out there. I know my calling, and I'm going to do what I can with what I know, and I know how to outsource the rest. So Hats off to all the techies out there, but I'm so glad to have you on the show because of what you're doing as far as in technology and also in the financial world. And so I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation tonight. We're only a few weeks out from 2023, and I think what better time than now to educate and talk about what you have going on, your company, the company you work for, and what you're doing to not only impact the world of technology, but the financial world as well. And so I'm so glad that we're having this conversation right now. And so let's jump right into it. Your company that the company that you work for, you said it's a startup company. How did you get started working with Let Bob?
Okay, so as I mentioned, steps been ordered by God, right? So I'm going to give this whole quest. You know how they say, hindsight is 2020, and I just mentioned to someone recently how again God plays chess when we play checkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started out in my career. Well, let me back up a bit. Well, my college degree is in computer information systems. I always thought I was going to be a programmer. That didn't work out. I was actually ended up being a business analyst. So I write requirements to create applications. And after working in healthcare for about 12 years, I'm doing the thing that, just came natural to me at that time. Heard God telling me to shift, to move. And I was like, I've been here for 12 and a half years. I'm not going anywhere. Well, God pushes me out and I get laid off. And then I go to this company that teaches me a different way of developing. So I learned how to really work with developers and a QA team and all of that, just being what we call in the tech world a product owner. And so from there, there were some issues with that company. So I left and I got into the fintech world. So one thing led to another. I ended up at a fintech company where at that time they had a small team for a new application. On that small team, there was a total of 6 of us on that team. And I became friends with one of the developers who ended up being Anthony Buchanan, who is our CEO and founder of Let Bob. So he and I became friends, and he was doing some apps on the side. And me being me, he's like, hey, I need someone to test these applications. Do you mind? I'm like, oh, sure, I'll test them. And I did it no cost. So it's like, oh, I'm just, helping you out. And as we moved forward, we just kept in contact. He left the company. It was a year later. We kept in contact. And one day he happened to call and say, hey, I'm thinking about this application. Well, actually, I am doing something for myself. It is an application that will allow me to trade automatically. No intervention on my side, but we'll go into the stock market and know exactly what to trade. And I said, you're doing it for yourself? And he said, well, yeah, of course. And I'm like, no, that's selfish. That's something that everyone needs to know of because a lot of people don't know how to trade, but want to trade. And he was like, no, I don't think so. Fast forward another year. And he calls me and said, April, remember that application I was telling you about? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, it is a thing now, and I want to bring you on. So, of course, I agreed. It was bringing me on, but of course, working, my day job. And he said, I can't pay at this time, but I can give you a percentage. And you can become a shareholder. So I'm like, okay, well, cool beans. I shall do that. And so that is how it all started. And just like I said, steps divine. And I'm with someone with the mentality of this is God's thing. This is God's plan. Every time something, doesn't go the way that we expect them to, or we don't get the investor that we wanted, or we thought we should have. I mean, while I sometimes sit and say, what is going on here? Anthony will say, it's God's plan. So that has been our model the entire time. So every time we bring someone on, we say, oh, it's God's plan. If they fall off, it's God's plan.
That's so great. And just listening to you tell the story is your steps were ordered. God is
Yes.
so strategic. Like
He's so strategic.
oh my God, nothing happens by coincidence. All of our steps are ordered. We come in contact with people at a divine point in our lives, and it's strategically planned by God because He knows what we need, when we need it. He knows when we need to transition. Like you said, you got laid off because you was like, God, nope. He will push you, like He will close that door for you. If we hesitate on closing the door, He will close it. I know. He laid me off from a job because that I said I was like, they're gonna have to roll me out of here on a wheelchair. I'm retiring from this place because I was comfortable. I was content.
Yes.
And that's the last thing God wants us to do is get comfortable and content. And when we get comfortable and content and we choose not to leave or step into what He called us to step into, He will close that door for us real quick.
Yes. And
But
we're grateful once we look back. But during the time, we're like, oh no, no changes.
No. Change is the only thing in life that's constant, but we resist it the most. We resist it the most, and change, helps us. It stretches us. It helps us to grow. Wisdom comes with change, but it is like, because it's uncomfortable. It is unfamiliar, and that's why we resist it. But if you're not growing, what are you doing?
I know. You're dying.
You're
That's what you're
dying.
doing.
If a plant is not growing, it's dying. And we have life, so we are here to grow, be fruitful, and multiply.
Yes.
And so, with Let Bob being an investment app, multiplication. I can't say that word. And so, thank you for sharing that journey with us. So let our viewers know exactly what the Let Bob app is all about.
Okay. So we have different streams. We started out saying that we're just going to be an app, but then we turned it to something bigger. So I'm going to go from the top down from what we have now that's bigger, and then what we have now and how it's growing. So Let Bob Technologies is the overarching company. And what we are overall and what we have. So we're a company that our motto is that we care about your money and your feelings. And the reason that we say that, it sounds funny, but when you think about investments, period, if you go anywhere else, they don't care about both. And you think about investing, you open money, you put money on a brokerage account. They don't care about your money or your feelings. You lose it, oh well, right? And the same thing, even if you go to some financial advisors, now you may go to some that really do care about you personally because they know you personally. But other than that, it's hard to find that thing where that person to really do something, especially when it comes to an application, right? We own it, actually, AI technology that actually utilizes, it picks the industry, it picks everything for you, and can automatically place buys and sells and all that on the market. And it's just based on technology that was created and owned by us. And so that is.
I love that part. I'm sorry. Owned by us. Ownership. Owned by us. Okay. I just had to say that.
Yes. We have patent pending technology as well. So it's owned, like I said again, owned by us. And so let me go to the name Bob. Now, Bob has two folds. One is, when you go to a financial institution, you're definitely going to find someone who's going to handle your money named Bob. But the deeper meaning of Bob is Black-owned business. So we are Black-owned. The majority of the shareholders are Black-owned, and the majority of us actually graduated from HBCUs too. Yeah, that's just amazing, right?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, I'm here for all of it.
And when you think about a fintech company, that is really rare. So that is LetBob Technologies. And then we also have ETFs. So LetBob ETF, if you go in the stock market today, go to any brokerage and you type in to search for LetB, that is ours. That is our ETF on the stock market that you can buy, and it will grow. And so that is our ETF. But on the flip side of that, we also provide that same experience for we're targeting mostly Black-owned companies right now in HBCU. So our first fold is HBCUs, where HBCU will be able to have their own ETF, and we're leveraging like seed partners, companies who are willing to invest in that HBCU, and they will be able to earn money within their endowment. So from their own ETF being on the market. So Anthony graduated from FAMU. So imagine FAMU having something on the stock market. FAMU, that's their ticker, and their alumni can actually purchase, an ETF stocks on the stock market for their HBCU, right? So that is, I know, huge, right? Huge.
I'm getting like, oh my God, it's so amazing. I'm just like, okay, go ahead.
Yes. So we have that's under the umbrella of LetBob Technologies. The other one, which you and I have talked about sometimes, which is my baby, especially when it comes to me being head of product, like I know it inside and out. And that is LetBob Advisory. That's the LetBob Advisory app. So we are currently in all app stores. So we're in Apple, in App Store, we're in the Play Store, where the user can download. And that is using the same technology that I mentioned, so the AI technology. We are a robo-advisor. So robo-advisor is basically, put it in terms of if you go to a financial advisor. So you go to a financial advisor, it's a person, they're going to give you the best advice they could give on where to put your money, not to spend all your money, put it all in one basket and all of that, right? A robo-advisory is that, but they are AI based, right?
Yeah.
We are the first robo-advisory, Black or otherwise, to actually trade directly on the stock market. So when you see most robo-advisory apps, they invest in ETFs. Now, even though we have our own ETFs, but they only, if you put your money in, and you think of anyone that's out on the market, you put your money into the app and they invest in your money, it's in an ETF, but you're not buying something. You can't trace it. You can't say, oh, I bought shares of Disney and I bought shares of Apple. You just don't know what it is that they have in that ETF. You're just trusting them that your money is growing. Our app isn't like that. So when you open it up, and Bob does an automated buy, so you don't have to do anything at all but fund your account. You don't have to know anything about trading. All you have to do is create your brokerage account and link your bank account, fund your account, and then you'll start getting your notifications when Bob buys, because he is like a trader, but a trader that can see everything in the market and see the best long-term buy. So when we say we care about your money and your feelings, is he's not buying haphazardly. He's not buying to day trade. He's buying for long-term investments that's going to benefit you as a user. And he's not going to put all your money into one stock. He's not going to allow you to try to spend all of your money. Is the safest way for you to build your money. And our goal is to close that racial wealth gap so you can understand, how the market works and how you can benefit from it. And we also show, have news feeds in there so that you can read about these particular trades and understand why it went up or went down, and get that knowledge. And then we just recently added podcast. So Anthony, he is a developer, but he is also a financial advisor. He and our chief trading officer, they get with other people within the community and all over the United States, and they talk to them and get their knowledge on trading and investing, and especially when they come for our people, for the culture, right? And so that is on the podcast as well. So you can get that education, that you can hear from these people saying, yes, we need to invest, and these are the things, these are the pitfalls, and all of that. So we're educating everyone as a whole and giving you what you need, but then still allowing you to build your finances. So that is the Robo Advisory app. And there's one more that we have right now. So just when I got you like, wow.
I know, right? And so before you go on with that, what is, and I know that may be a question that comes up, you say all we have to do is fund. Of course, you have to fund. What is the minimum investment amount to get started?
So there isn't really a minimum. Well, it's $5 minimum, but for Bob to really do something, I always suggest $100. So that's the thing within our company. I always suggest $100 so you can see movement, because Bob buys anything from, and we don't do percentages because we really want to be clear to our audience. Our base user persona is someone who didn't even graduate from high school, but know that they want to do something with their money. So that's our base persona, because we want to be able to be very clear. So due to that, we make sure that the app is very simplified. So we don't show in percentages, we show in dollar amounts. So
got you. Keep it
Bob
simple.
can purchase only $2 of Apple, right? And even though Bob can purchase only $2, if you only put $5 in, Bob isn't going to invest more than a certain percentage of the money that you have in your account. So $100 funded in your account, you give Bob the best opportunity to make good purchases for you.
Got it. That explains it. And I just love the fact that, even it gives everybody an opportunity. And that's the part I love about it, because, you may have somebody else, well, I need you to put in a minimum of $1,000. In today's society, let's be real, especially in the African American community, the reason why they don't invest is because they say, I don't have it to invest.
Right.
But you may not have the $100 right now. So you may say, okay, if I budget out $20 a paycheck within the 2 months, I'll have at least $100 funded in here. And so it gives them hope. It gives them hope, because when people, honestly, I would say me, I was one of those people. When you think about investing, I don't have that much money to invest, because we're conditioned to think that you had to have a lot of money to invest in something. Well, this gives you an opportunity to start where you are and build upon that, and it encourages you. You tell me, look, $5, but Bob is, Bob really need to work with something, do a minimum of 100.
Right.
Well, I don't have $100 right now, but can I start with something? I may have $30 right now. I may have $70 right now. And I can just build, and each time give me something to work with, and it's not as intimidating, because when you say the word investment, when you say stock market, when you say all of those things, it's very intimidating to people who don't have the knowledge to understand the market and understand investing. So I have to give it to you for breaking it down and being a part of such a revolutionary project and company that is really going to change the game for people of color who aren't privileged to this information. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, there was a connection issue. Who aren't privy to this information. And so I just, Anthony, yourself, and just being a part of such, I'm just gonna let you know, I'm gonna purchase some Bob's shares, because
Thank you.
look, I'm serious. That is like when you were saying that's okay, that's the financial goal, because so many people's like, I should have bought into this when they first started, I should have bought into that, and look at it now.
Yes. And our stats have been really good. It's funny because, like I mentioned to you, you don't see that many of us when it comes to this market, especially not just fintech, but especially when it comes to investments. Like a couple of years ago, before COVID, we went to the TD Ameritrade conference. We were there as vendors, and it was just a handful of us, but it was only us as the first Black vendors that I guess was at the conference, because we've been told that like the Black financial advisors who were there, they were like, we've never seen a Black vendor here. And it's not many of us in this space. And I'm saying this because when we had the ETF and we launched it, the company that stands it up, and I say stands it up, the company that we have to go through in order for it to, be on the stock market, they told Anthony and Dave, our trading officer, that they were doing it wrong. Like, basically, this isn't going to work. And then the market failed.
Excuse my face.
I know. Market failed. Our percentage of loss was so much less than Dow and NASDAQ and all that. Then they turn around and started contacting both Anthony and our trading officer, saying, hey, can you speak to these, speak for our conferences? Can you talk to some of our advisors? But so it's one of those things, like, you have to prove that we know. But you know what? It's a good space, right? For me, it's a good opportunity to just say, this is what God has done. This is, who we are. And we know what we're doing. Now, I personally don't do the financial stuff. I count on Bob as well.
I know, right? Look,
but it's just good to know, right?
Yes, it goes back to, hey, I know my lane. I'm gonna do this part. I got you on the tech. I got you on the other part of it, the program. I got you on all of that. I'm gonna let the chief trading officer and the let them handle the financial pieces. I'm gonna use Bob as a consumer, even though I'm on the product development side of it. And just
it helps because I know what to build in, because I was set and think about, okay, this would be the best thing. Like, we also have the ability for the user to just create a podcast account, because the reason we did that is some users may say, I don't have anything to invest in now, or they may, I don't know about this thing, so I don't know if I want to do it. And we don't force them. We don't force and say, you have to create a brokerage account. So at the end of going through your onboarding screens, you have a choice of creating your brokerage account or creating a podcast only account. So your podcast only account, you listen to podcasts, you would get some snippets of Bob recent buys, so you can understand what Bob is buying for everyone else who have a brokerage account. And then you can convert. So there's a way that you can open a brokerage account from your podcast account. That was something me as a product, head of product was like, this is something we need because I can see myself or my mom especially. It's like, I don't know about this. And then when you listen to the podcast and you're listening to, there's one guest that is a very known pastor in the DC area and does very well with investments and all. And he's talking about that and talking about, growth in the kingdom and all of these things. And so you get to listen to this podcast along with others and make a decision. So I just found out today that there was one person that actually did that someone, we can see the conversion of someone who went from podcast to brokerage account because they had the education. And that was the purpose of the podcast. It's the education of understanding, number one, about investments, but then also how Bob safeguards you. Like, we're not trying to hide anything. We're completely being transparent.
That's the part about it, giving people the opportunity to be educated. And then once they feel comfortable or it feels as if they have enough information to make the sound decision, they're able to convert.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are, like you said, it puts them at ease. Oh, you're forcing me to create a brokerage account in order to even have it. No, you're giving me the opportunity, because that's where they get us. If lack of education, lack of knowledge keeps you down. Mm-hmm. And so providing that opportunity through the podcast, okay, for you to gain knowledge, for you to get an understanding, for you to hear from other people in the industry and all of those things, faith-based people, and who are giving you these principles, giving you these biblical principles, and letting you explaining to you the importance of, like you said, not being kingdom broke, not being broke. God, they have told us that they've oh my God, they destroyed the scripture. They will say, oh, the love of money is the root of all evil. No, the love of money is the root of all evil. God wants us to be wealthy. He wants us to have riches. It's the love of money. Yes. You're not supposed to love money more than you love him. And that's the thing about it. That is the part that has really been drilled inside of us. And okay, if you're, Christian, or you're in the church, you're supposed to live a poverty-stricken life. The devil is a lie.
Right.
God didn't tell us to live a poverty-stricken life. I know, right? The devil is a lie, and his mama, and his daddy, and his sister, and his brother. And so his whole family is a lie. But it's just providing the education, and that is what it's all about. That is what, we're here for. And even, my podcast and my platform, and just bringing women like you on the podcast is educate and let you know that the information is out there, and it is possible. It is possible. It's a shift in your thinking. It's a shift in your perspective. It's a shift in your mindset. It is possible. Get the information.
Yes. And so that's our main piece. Just make sure you're educated. No one feels the pressure. You can get all the education you want. If you want to stay on just a podcast, that's fine too. And we want to make sure that our people, our culture, educated. Now, that app isn't just for us, of course, but the purpose behind it is to educate us when it comes to investing. No more putting money under your mattress. No more just having it sit, in your regular checking account, or even in your savings account, because you don't get that big of a return on your savings account.
No,
and stop being scared.
Oh God, that's the part right there. It's so funny. You said you don't get that much of a return on your savings account, and it goes to show you how, I would say, uneducated our community was, the Black community. I used to work in life insurance, and looking at and I know this is just to give an example of how uneducated we were. We didn't have the knowledge. You want to know how the other race gained so much wealth. At one point, the life insurance policy had such a high um, uh, interest rate.
Yeah.
I mean, they were dumping their money in there, and the return was astronomical. It was so bad that the uh Department of Insurance had to put regulations, and so now once you reach a certain threshold, like it's a wrap. But that's how they acquired so much wealth. This was back in, I want to say, the 70s and the 80s, and
Mhm.
maybe it may have been the early night. I don't know, but I mean, I've seen policies where they've had over $1 million in cash value.
See?
That's money that they can just take out.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. And then we are scared to invest. We're afraid to lose anything. And and that's why I'm glad Bob is here, because Bob was sale before you. So I'm gonna tell you a funny story. Before we were fully on this app, we had a different way. So we have gone through several versions in the last few years before we finally released what we have now. So the version right before this one, was that we were going to send buy and sell signals. Like, so time to buy, I put in whatever I'm looking or already own or looking to buy. And Bob will send me a signal and say, it's time to buy or time to sell. So I already purchased this one particular stock, and I bought it really cheap. I mean, I bought it for like $2 and some change. And then in 2020, it shot up. Like, it shot up to like 70 something dollars, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Now, I'm not thinking, I'm not a trader. Let me put that out there. I'm not a trader. I trade sometimes, but I'm not a trader. So Bob, while I'm testing, sends me a signal, because I put it in there that I was looking at this, saying to sell. I'm looking at this. I'm like, this thing is $77 from $2. It ain't time to sell. So then it went down a little bit, but I'm like, we good. Went back up. Next thing I know, I woke up and it went down to like 50 something dollars. It just, I'm not thinking. Bob read charts. April doesn't read charts because April's not a trader. Bob read charts though. So I was like, man, okay, let me go and sell. So I think I sold it like at $56, right? So, and then the next day or so, it dropped down to 40 something dollars. Now, don't get me wrong. From $2 to 40 something dollars, very good return.
Yes.
But I could have sold at 70 something, and I got 50. I got at 56. But I could have sold at 70 something, right? But I wasn't listening. So I called Anthony and I was like, man, let me tell you what happened. He was like, what did Bob say? I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. He was like, but what did Bob tell you to sell? So I say all that to say,
listen to Bob.
Listen to Bob.
But you say now he doesn't send signals now. He just sell on his own,
Yes,
right?
yes. That was
Good.
I think that was the second or third iteration of the product before we got to, we're just going to do it for them. So what we're doing right now, we're actually adding, at this time, this is in development, the ability to have multiple accounts. So we have an account that we call it Do It Yourself with Bob Guidance, where you can, this is for the people who know how to trade, they can trade on their own. But Bob would give guidance to let them know, hey, you spent a certain amount of money, or basically Bob would have traded this at a certain time, just information for them to make sure that, hey, make sure that you're not losing a lot of your money and presenting those opportunities. And then the other type of account would be a custodial account. So a parent can create Bob accounts for their kids, and Bob can trade for their kids the way Bob does for them. Bob will do it all. It will be under the kid's name.
You just piqued my, yeah. And it's generational wealth. Generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Generational wealth. And when you were talking about Bob told you to sell and you didn't sell, I was thinking about the GPS, the navigational turn left, but that's not the right
That's not
turn.
the way
I
I
know where
go.
I'm going, and you end up. I'm just
Stuck in
gonna make this
traffic.
use. Look, stuck in traffic, or you gone 20 miles out the way. Like, I should listen to that.
I've done the stuck in traffic a couple of times. Like, I'm not going there. And then next thing I'll be like, oh, I didn't know it was an accident.
Waze knew it was an accident. Waze
Right.
knew it was an accident. They told you to go that way. And so I've learned, just listen to them. Just say, look, they have the traffic reports. Bob read the charts. He was trying to make sure you just got a few more coins, but you said,
So,
I'm
it's gonna
good.
go up, keep going up. It
That's
didn't.
But hey, like you said, you sold it at 50 something dollars and you only bought it for two something, $2 and some change. Hey, that's a win. But like you said, if you had have listened to Bob and just sold it when he told you to sell it.
It would have been $20 more per share. Yeah. So I learned a lesson then.
But see, Bob knows that we're hard headed. So now y'all have Bob just gonna say, I'm just gonna sell it. And when you look up, you're gonna see this money in your account, and then you just go back and say, okay, he sold it. Thank you, Bob, for because I would have been like, maybe it'll go up just a little bit more. Let me just hold on to it.
A
And
lot
Bob
of
said,
people don't
look,
understand. Trading is a mental game because of that right there. Like, maybe I can hold on to it, or I'm gonna sell it right now, and then it shoots up higher, and you're like, dang it, I sold it too fast. It's a mental game.
it's a mental game, and it's a mental game that I want to play. So hey, Bob doesn't have kids. Bob doesn't. Life
Right.
doesn't get to life with Bob. Life
Bob looks
doesn't.
all day. His job is to look at the
Yeah,
entire market all day long. We don't have
he was
time for that.
created for this. He was created for this. He don't have to drive to take the kids to school. He doesn't have to deal with all that. So life doesn't life for Bob. Bob does one thing all day long. So hey, that's his job. Let Bob do his job and keep
Exactly.
it moving.
Exactly. And
Keep
so
it
let's
moving.
keep it
Right.
moving. So let me move on to our last product because you're going to love this. So our last product that we currently have, and this is, I say currently have because we have some thoughts on others, is Bob University. So Bob University, we have some partners that we work with to present Bob trading to young kids. So when I've mentioned the do-it-yourself account that has Bob guidance, we utilizing that same premise where it could be one of the people we're working with was the Organization of Black Financial Advisors. And so they would be able to have a group of teenagers, and those teenagers learn how to trade, but they're learning how to trade as if it's a game. So they will have fake money, real stock market, and Bob guiding them. So Bob is teaching them the mindset by him giving them those guardrails. But then they are learning like as they go. So that is the latest product that we have, Bob University. That hasn't rolled out yet. It's rolling out next year though.
Instead of somebody standing in front of the cafeteria with a table telling you to sign up for a credit card that they know you don't have the money to pay for.
Exactly.
And introducing you to that. Instead, you're educating on financial and generational wealth, and I love it. I love every bit, every piece of it.
Yes.
And
Yes. I was recently talking to someone who was opening a charter school and wanted to target some things about finances. And she said something so profound to me when I told her about Bob University. And that is, so she said, so you mean to tell me that my kids can start this in their 9th or 10th grade year, and by the time they graduate with no degree, they will be able to manage their finances and earn money and build wealth straight out of high school. And I'm like, yeah.
And that's the thing. We have to change the narrative. And, we were taught what you do. You graduate, you go to college. And not saying that there's certain degrees and certain careers you have to go to college for, but there was no other option presented to. It was like either you go to college or you end up being you just end up being nothing. I'm just sorry. And then, I'm just being real. People who went to trade school or people who went to junior college, sometimes they were looked down upon. You didn't go to a university.
You're right.
They were looked down upon. And now they're out there. They're not in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from getting bachelors and masters and all these degrees. They got their trade or they got their whatever they got, and now they are living better than people who got the other degrees. But educating them, and like she made a great point, educating them now, understanding the power of knowledge, the power of your finances, all of those things, instead, teaching them young.
Yeah.
And it's time for us. It's time for us as African Americans. It's time for us as Black people, the Black race, the Black culture, to embrace it, because instead of us dropping our kids off at college and saying, hey, get it how you get it.
Right.
The other, other races, their kids graduate from college and they have an 800 credit score.
And we're graduating and you're good to have above 600 because you're borrowing and it wasn't really truly taught.
It wasn't taught, and it is people like you, and just providing the education and providing the tools that is changing the narrative. It's changing the narrative, and we have to continue to change the narrative and shift the needle, because the days of us being uneducated, the days of us being blind, the days of us not knowing, and being set in a generational mindset are over. There's a shift that's happening, and it's happening because of people like you and Let Bob, and just really empowering so many of us to just go for it. Go for it.
Yes.
So thank you. Look, I'm gonna have to have you back to talk about Let Bob and what you have going on, because this is information that is needed. And I'm just excited to have had you as my guest today. And I know it was a lot of great information that was given. So I hope the readers were taking notes. Not readers, but the listeners were taking notes. And any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Well, thank you for having me. And I know 2023 is going to be a huge year for Let Bob. So I look forward to sharing all of that with you and your audience. So, I'll share it with you, but then with your audience as well. But my last thought is, everyone go to our websites. We have letbob.com. We have letbobtrade.com. And eventually we're going to have Let Bob ETF is opening up. Well, you can go to the site, but that's mainly for institutions. But just check us out. Download our app on Play Store or App Store. It's Let Bob. Search for it. And thank you. Thank you in advance.
You're very welcome. And all of everything that she said, it will be down below in the description box. And so all that information, all the links to download the app, whether you are an Android user or you are part of the Apple family. That was real petty. That was real petty. But whether no matter what family you're part of, whether you're the main family or the side family, you're going to the links will be below for you to download the app, as well as all of the websites, so you can go and get more information. So make sure you check that out. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. So thank you, April, for joining me today. I hope you have an amazing holiday season.
Yes,
And I know that 2023 is going to be amazing year for Let Bob and everything that you and the company is doing. And I'm just glad to have a strong Black woman as the head of product. So the woman behind the brand, you have April Bridges here. And so thank you for tuning in. Until next week, give yourself grace because you won't always get it right. The grace that God gives us when we don't get it right. Be blessed, and I love you with the love of the Lord. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Peace. This episode has been brought to you by Desiree Danielle Branding and Event Photography, where they capture authentic branding images for busy entrepreneurs and businesses that helps them connect with their ideal audience. Visit www.desireedanielle.com to schedule your branding consultation today. Don't forget to subscribe.